Hi guys, this is Miss Gardner here. Today we're going to be talking about subtracting with regrouping, or something better known as borrowing. And I'm sure we've all heard of this. And so today I'm going to go through how to subtract using regrouping, or same thing as borrowing. Okay, so here we go. So if I had this as my problem, 73 minus 25, I would first start by looking at the numbers in my ones column, okay? So I'm going to start here looking at my numbers here. And so I'm trying to figure out if I can take 5 from 3. And we already know that whenever you're subtracting, the number on top has to be larger than the number at the bottom in order to take from it. I cannot possibly take 5 things if I only have 3. Okay? And so, because of that, this is why we call it borrowing. I now need to look in the tens place, and I need to borrow a set of 10 to go with my threes right here. Okay? So, I cannot take 5 from 3. So, I'm going to look over here to my neighbor in the tens column, and I'm going to borrow a set of 10 from here. So, what I'm going to do, I'm going to take 110 from here, and this now becomes 6, or the value of this is really 60 because this is in the tens column. And so because I'm taking a 10 from here, I'm going to add the 10 that I take from this column to the 3 in the ones column. So this now becomes not just 3 or not just 10, it now becomes 13 because I'm going to add the 10 that I'm taking from here, and I'm going to add it to the 3 that I already have here, and that's going to become a 13. So I will cross this out and make this a 13. Now I'm going to look to see if I'm able to take 5 from this 13, and I know I can because 13 here is larger than the 5 here. So now we're just going to do some basic subtracting, okay? So I already know that 5 from 13 is going to give me 8. Okay, so I will put 8 right here in my ones column, and then I'm going to take 20, or 2 from 6. So if I subtract this 2 from 6, I'm going to be left with 4. All right. Now, a little later on in this lesson, I'm going to show you guys how you can always go back and check your math problems, especially your subtracting problems, just to make sure that your answer is correct. So we'll look at that a little later on. Right now, I want to show you a different way to do this exact same problem, okay? Just kind of want to go through it to make sure that we are on target and that you understand what we just did, okay? So I'm going to write the same problem here, 73 minus 25, okay? Now, this problem is the same as me saying 70 in the number 3 minus 20 in the number 5, okay? Because the value of the numbers in this place right here, this 5 and the 3, is just that because it's in the ones place. So the value of this 3 is 3. The value of this 5 is 5, okay? So that's why I just put the 3 right here, and I put the 5 right here. Now, the value of this 7 is 70, because you got to remember that we are operating in the tens place, okay? So it's not just 7. The value of this 7 here is 70. And then the value of this 2 is 20, okay? So we're going to go over here and we're going to look at how we can use this same exact scenario to subtract that's going to end up giving us the exact same answer here. Okay, let me box this problem in so we don't get confused. So let's look at here. Okay, so 5 from 3, I still cannot take that away, okay, because the larger number has to be on top. If I have 3 apples, I can't take 5 apples from 3. I've got to have enough apples to pull from, okay? So I've got to take a 10 from here to add over here so I have enough, okay? So that's what we're going to do. So I'm going to borrow a set of 10. So now if I take 10 from 70, I'm going to be left with 60, okay? Now what happens to the 10 that I borrow from this 70? That 10 comes right over here and it gets added to the 3, okay? I'm borrowing so I can add over here so I have enough. Okay? Now, there is no need for me to borrow anything from here because let's see if we're going to have enough. Okay? So if I make this 10, if I add this 10 and this 3, I'm going to end up with 13. And I know that I can subtract 5 from this 13, which is going to leave me with 8. Okay? Now, if I take 20 from the 60 that I have left, I'm going to be left with 40. Okay? All right? You see how I did that? I took 5 from this 13 that I have because the 3 plus the 10 that I borrowed gives me 13. If I take 5 from 13, I'm left with 8. And then I'm going to take 20 from the 60 that I have right here, and I'm left with 40. Now I've got to go through and I've got to add these two together. So now 40 plus 8 is going to give me 48. Okay? That's my answer. And that's the exact same thing that I have right here. That's just a different way of doing it. Okay? So you don't get confused. All right. So say I needed to go back to make sure that my answer was correct. Anytime you have a subtraction problem, especially with borrowing or regrouping, you can go back and use the opposite of subtraction, which is addition, to figure out if your answer is indeed correct. All right. So this is what we're going to do. So we will look at this one. So my answer that I came up with was 48. I'm going to write this number down, 48. And because we just subtracted and I'm trying to figure out if my answer is correct, I'm going to add, okay? I'm going to do the opposite. So 48 plus, and then I'm going to add 48 back to the number that I subtracted originally, okay? So I'm going to add 48 plus 25. So let's add 48 plus 25. Let's go through and add these things up and let's see what we get. Okay, here we go. 5 plus 8, we already know is 13. We're going to take this set of 10, which this one is going to represent the 10, and I'm going to put my 3 right here. And then I'm going to add going straight down. Okay, so this 2, which is really the value of this 2, really is 20. But when we say 2 plus the 40 is going to give us 6, plus 1 is going to give us 70. 7, sorry. So now the answer that I came up with was 73. Now, when you do this, always go back and see if this answer that you came up with after you've added your answer together plus the number that you actually subtracted, go back and see if it makes the larger number. And if it's the exact same thing as this first number that you started with, you know that your answer is correct. And in this case, our answer was 48. So we know that we can check that one off our list and we know we got that one correct, all right? Awesome. So we're going to do another one, and let me erase this so I can just come up with another problem to put up here for you guys to look at. What I want you guys to do, let me put some water on this so I can erase this. What I want to tell you guys is the fact that this lesson is being recorded, you can always go back and pause, try to solve the problem as I'm going through it with you, or pause and try to solve the problem on your own, and then come back to see what we did together, okay? Because I want you to practice on your own so that you get good at this, okay? I want you to be very, very fluent when it comes to borrowing. And I know that sometimes this is a subject or an area that a lot of times we struggle with, okay? Borrowing. And we really don't have to if we just take it one step at a time and if we understand the value of each number, okay? So let's come up with another problem. Let's do another one. So this time I'm going to do one that has hundreds placed in it, okay? So this time I will do 584 minus, let's see, 267. Whoa, okay. Here we go. Let's try to work that one out, okay? All right, so we always start when we are doing addition or subtraction problem. We always like to start in our ones column and then work our way to the left. So we're going to start right in the ones column. Now, I know I'm subtracting and I need to take 7 from 4, but is it possible to take 7 from 4 if I have 4 watches and I need to take 7 watches away? Can I do that? Absolutely not. The top number has to be larger so that I can take something from it, okay? All right, so in this case, I can't do that. So I already know that I'm going to have to borrow from my neighbor, okay? All right, so because I'm in the ones column, I'm looking to my neighbor in the tens column. So I am going to borrow a set of 10 from this neighbor. So if I do that, this then becomes a 7. And actually, the value of that 7 is not just 7, it's 70 because it's in the tens column, okay? All right, so I'm going to borrow a set of 10 here. And if I borrow a set of 10 here, I'm going to take the 10 that I borrowed and add it to the 4 that I have here. And that's going to make it 14. So I'm going to cross this out, and I actually made that 14, okay? Now, we can subtract 7 from 14. And I already know, just like you do, that 7 from 14 is going to give us 7. If you said 7, kiss your brain because you're absolutely correct. Okay? 7 from 14 is going to give us 7. Now, let's move to the tens column. This 7 here, again, is really 70, but I can look here and take 60 from 70, or if you want to say 6 from 7, I'm okay with that, as long as you understand the values of each number, okay? So if I take 6 from 7, that's going to leave me with 1. And I can do that because my number on top is larger than my bottom number, okay? And so since I was able to do that, I'm just going to keep going. I'm going to keep working my way to the left. 2 from 5, or 200 from 500 is going to leave me with 300. Okay, so 2 from 5 leaves me with 3. And so my answer is 317. All right, I can show you the way we did the previous problem by working it all the way out. Okay, so let's do that. It's going to get a little long, but I just kind of want you to understand the value of each number because that's so important that you don't look at each number as just, oh, that's just a 7, or that's just a 6, or that's just a 2. You need to know that if you see this 2, that's really a 200, okay? So here we go. 500, 80, and 4. Then here we have 200, 60, and 7. And we're trying to subtract. Okay? All right. So, looking at this, I know I cannot take 7 from 4, so I'm going to look here to borrow a set of 10. If I borrow a set of 10 here, this 80 becomes 70. I heard you. You are absolutely correct. This 80 becomes 70. Okay? Then the 10 that I borrowed from this 80, I'm going to add it here to this 4, and that's going to become a 14. Okay? Now that I have enough, let's subtract. I know I can take 7 from 14, and I know that 7 from 14 always, always, always gives me 7. Okay? I can subtract 60 from 70, and that's going to leave me with 10. Okay? I can subtract 200 from 500, that's going to leave me with 300. And I know you're like, Miss Gardner, how in the world is that my answer? Well, this really is your answer, but we just got to add them together. Okay? So now we've got to add 300 plus 10 plus 7. Okay? And if I add 300 plus 10 plus 7, I'm going to get 317 as my answer. Okay? You all are doing amazing. I can tell, I can already feel it. You're doing a great job, okay? So now remember what I told you earlier. To make sure that your answer is correct, you can always go back with subtraction problems and do the opposite, which is addition. And all you have to do is add the answer you came up with, which in this case is 317, to the number that you had to subtract, okay? Which is the 267. Okay, I'm going to add 267 to this to see if I get this answer right here. So 7 plus 7, I heard you, is 14. So I'm going to carry this 1, which really represents the 10, and bring down this 4. Then I know 6 plus 1 is going to give me 8, or I can really say 60 plus 10 plus 10 is going to give me 80. And then 2 plus 3 is going to give me 5, or 200 plus 300 is going to give me 500. So let's see if it's the same as this. Oh, guess what? It's the exact same thing that I came up with the first time. That's the number that I started out with. So I know that my answer of 317 is correct. All right? Guys, kiss your brain. You did an amazing job today. We will do more problems like this, and you will see more problems, or you've already seen problems like this week with your work, okay? Keep practicing. Keep practicing. We're going to get there. If you need to, go back and watch this video, pause it, stop it if you need to, and work the problems out on your own, and then play so you can see what we came up with, guys, okay? If you have any questions, as usual, get with your teachers, send them an email, schedule a time to work with them one-on-one to help you through subtraction with regrouping, better known as borrowing, okay? Guys, have an amazing day.